going back to our example, if you want to spend around 120,000 a year, and we just use that number because it's easy math, 10,000 a month, then you might need 4 million or more saved for retirement. And things only scale up from there. And that's because you have a long bridge. There's no Social Security yet. There's no Medicare for a decade, and you're spending down the money you spent 30 years saving. But beyond the money, this stage needs to focus on something even more important. You know, there's an old line: we spend our lives climbing the ladder of success only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. And that's the trap that people can sometimes fall into at 55. They focused on the climb and on hitting the number, but they haven't built the life on the other side of it. They built a portfolio without ever building a shared picture of the day-to-day. And that's what 55 can feel like if you haven't done the work before you climb down. Give yourself permission to retire at 55 if you want. But keep in mind, that's still potentially 40 years of an adult life with no work, no job. So proceed with caution, only if you've already answered, not what you're retiring from, but what you're retiring to.
So if you're sitting there thinking, okay, but what's my right age? What's best for my life? What's best for my family and my situation? That's the exact conversation that we have with people every single week. We'd love to talk to you about it and help you find some answers that fit your specific situation. I'll put more information below in the description to apply for a time to talk. All right, we've got 2 more age ranges to cover, and the next one is the age range that very few people talk about, and that's just between 56 to 59, sometimes called the pre-Medicare bridge. Almost every week we get a phone call that goes something like this. Someone who's worked for years, they've run the numbers, they've picked a date, and then they told us that they're ready to retire. And then they open up the health insurance marketplace or start to do a little research about health insurance costs. And then they panic. They bring that up and they say, I can't do this. This insurance cost is almost as much as the mortgage. So here's what's actually going on at this age. Health insurance before 65 isn't always an affordability problem for the people that we work with. It's actually more of a logistics problem that just needs to be solved. There's different levels that we pull and we can pull with our clients. One thing like the ACA marketplace, or just careful COBRA timing, and then also managing your taxable income to qualify for subsidies. It sounds hard, or it sounds like if you have a lot saved or you have a big income need, that wouldn't be possible, but it actually is. But anyways, you just have to know those levers exist and then how to use them. So if you're spending around 80 to 100,000 a year, around 2 million could work, but 3 to 3.5 million makes it a little bit more comfortable and gives you plenty more room. Almost nobody fails this stage on the portfolio side, as long as they're doing the right things there. They fail because they didn't plan for the insurance gap. This is one of the most underrated ages on the list. And if you've solved the bridge, then this might actually be the smartest age to retire. You get more good years on the other side without sacrificing much on the portfolio side. So I'd rank this one close to the top.
And this brings us to the one we pick for most people. If you ask me where we see people happiest across hundreds of families, it's retiring in that window between 60 and 65. This is why we call this the sweet spot. Here's why we see this window work so often. You've got full access to your retirement accounts with no penalties. Medicare is in sight, so the bridge is short. And most people still have good health and high energy. Also, you have 20 to 30 years of runway in front of you to actually live the life that you've saved for. And Dave, you've talked about this on the channel for years.
That's right. We call these the go-go years. It's that framework that I've mentioned before. It's the go-go years, and then as you get a little bit older into your 70s, it gets to more of the slow-go years. And then as you get into your upper 70s, 80s, sometimes it turns into the no-go years, where you're not doing as many things as you might be able to do when you're in your early 60s. So that 60 to 65 window sits right at the front of the go-go years, when you've got the energy, the health, the money, and the time all lined up at that same moment. So this is a rare overlap, because earlier in your life, you usually have the time and the energy, but you don't have the money yet. Later in life, you've got the money, but you don't always have the energy or the health. So that 60 to 65 window is one where everything lines up. And the numbers in this window are honestly the most forgiving on the list. If you spend around 100,000 a year, then 2 to 3 million works for a couple without many major compromises. Social Security is starting to grow if you can defer it. Your portfolio is compounding, and the bridge to Medicare disappears entirely at age 65. So that's why so many people end up here and they feel like they made a good choice versus people who wait a little bit longer and then wish that they had pulled the trigger sooner.
So we rank 60 to 65 at the top of the list. Not because the math is the best, but because it's the only window where the math, the body, and the calendar all agree at the same time. So please don't forget that money is only part of the picture. Lifestyle and purpose are even more important in every stage of life. And if you've been watching our videos for a while, you know that to be true.